Thank you so much, Toastmaster of the Day, Pankaj, for these words of wisdom on financial planning. And I'm sure I've taken a lot of notes, and I'll reach out to you one-on-one as well. So, my dear friends, it is the time of India Wants to Know. So we have two superb teams here who have been working, burning the midnight oil to reach the acme of today's debate. And before I introduce both the teams, I would like to share that why do we debate? Anybody wants to share your thoughts? Why do we debate? All right. So basically, debate teaches us a lot of ways in which we do logical thinking, right? Sometimes we have a thought process and we think that we look at the world from that lens. This is what it is, and anybody who's opposing that is wrong. But in debate, what happens is we put our arguments that this is the way it is because ABC, and we also listen to the opposing team. That why do you think so that this is not true? And we let them provide their arguments. And then we look at it logically. We might not be right? So we look at it logically that which argument is better for both the teams. So debate teaches us logical thinking. It teaches us listening, and it teaches us to listen to other point of view as well. So you look at the problem statement from both the point of views and then decide. Having said that, without further ado, we have a proposing team and we have an opposing team, and the the motion for today is: how many of you have felt the impact of lockdown? Just raise your hands. Okay. So the topic of today's debate is lockdown is doing us more harm than good. And the team which is proposing the motion is we have Toastmaster Harsh. Harsh, can you check your audio video? We have Toastmasters Samit, our guest Samit with us. And we have Toastmaster Pathikrit. Is that correct?
Ramik.
Okay. And for the team which is opposing this motion is, give me a sec.
Toastmaster Rajveer.
Yeah, so Toastmaster Rajveer, can you introduce your team, please?
Yeah, hi, good evening. So the team which is opposing the motion consists of me. My name is Rajveer Bhaskar. We have Toastmaster Kamya, and we have Toastmaster Pathikrit Basu, who is helping me in opposing the motion.
Okay, great. So now both the teams are there. Can we have a quick timing guidelines, please? I would request timer Newton to quickly share the timing guidelines for the 4 rounds.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. See, we have 4 rounds. Round number 1, 2, and 4. Have each speaker will be given a 3 minutes, and 30 seconds will be the grace timing. Okay. And for round number 2, we have question and answer section. For question section, there will be 30 seconds, and for giving answer, 1 minute will be the timing. Over to you, Abhinav.
Okay, thank you so much, timer Newton. So let's start with the round 1, which is the opening remarks. So both the teams.
Hello, Hi,
Pathikrit.
sorry, debate host. I just had I just have one quick question. Can the timer just explain on when the timer cards will be shown for this for the debate?
Okay. So it will be shown as soon as you start round 1. It will be shown. We'll check whether you can see the timer card or not. Nutan, can you share the screen, please?
Yeah, sure.
So everybody, is the screen visible? The timer card is visible. Pathikrit, great.
Yes, yes, it is.
So let's get started, guys. Round one. Round one is all about opening remarks. So both the teams will provide the opening remarks, why they think they are proposing it or opposing it. So we start with the proposing team first. Over to you, proposing team.
Thank you, Toastmaster Abhinav. Good evening, all. I welcome you on behalf of the proposing team, comprising of myself, Samir, Janveer, and Harsh. And we will be discussing how lockdown has done more harm than good to the society at large. So, in the early stages of 2020, when the novel coronavirus was at its acme of its severity, uh, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as a precautionary step, uh, uh, announced a nationwide lockdown applicable from 24th March 2020. And subsequently, we will be discussing how it has impacted India at large. And I'll be breaking my discussion into two parts, which would be macro factors and the micro factors. The macro factors would be discussing about the economy at large, and micro factors would be focusing upon an individual capacity. Okay. So the first impact I would like to talk about was the migrant crisis. As everyone knew that since the lockdown was a sudden move, a lot of people, a lot of laborers were not able to move away from their working places and were not able to reach home. According to a survey, approximately 90% of the people did not receive their lockdown wages, and over 70% people were deprived of their home cooked food. So according to that, it would be a very severe impact on an everyday person if you think that they have to spend a lot of time without their family, without support, without food. So that was one of the very crucial aspect of the lockdown. The second thing I would be willing to talk about is the employment rate. The employment rate currently has been severely tumbling, and it is below the pre-pandemic rates by a significant amount. And subsequently, since the employment rates are going down, the disposable income with the people at hand has been decreasing with quite amount, and owing to which the amount of spending that people are capable to make in relation to themselves and for their family has been decreasing. Say it is healthcare or food or otherwise. So that has had a negative impact on us. The other thing that I would be willing to talk about is the economy as large. Indian economy has shrunk by say 17% in the first 6 months itself, and it has been deteriorating subsequently. So that has had a negative impact on our economy and how we compete with the world. The nations around us are improving and are progressing, but India is still laboring in order to, reach to their level. And lastly, I would also like to talk about the inflation rate that has been going up. So when the inflation rate is basically the amount of money you have to pay for a product and which increases over a period of time. Say, for example, bread is 10 rupees right now, it would be 11 rupees subsequently. So that has been increasing, and due to which the people face acute shortages. And that is why the crime rates are also increasing. So according to this, these are the macro factors I'll be discussing about. The microeconomic factors would be taken by my peer. It brings us to a very important question that, like for example, considering the impact of COVID, you would assume that the healthcare sector is improving. But I would like to quote the World Bank, which states that India has been very subnormal while managing its COVID war. And according to the Greek legend himself, Aristotle said that man is a social animal, and when you remove the social part from our surroundings, from our being, we will remain. Man is but an animal. Thank you.
Wow, that was a great opening from the proposing team. And now let's see, how does our opposing team opens up the arguments from their side. So in order to take it ahead, I would request the participant from opposing team to uh, check the audio and video, please.
Hi, am I audible? I assume I'm visible.
Yes, you are. Go ahead, Toastmaster Rajveer.
Yeah, thank you so much. There is a famous proverb which says that those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Now we know that the best strategy, the acne of strategy to tame these infectious demons is to create vaccine. But we know HIV is there since ages, but we are not yet able to find a vaccine. So what becomes the immediate priority when you face a new pandemic like COVID? What authorities did across the world? The immediate priority became, how do we arrest the community transmission, and those who are already infected, how do we quarantine them and initiate the treatment? That became the priority. But what happened next? People found innovative ways. They started popping paracetamol tablet before boarding flights, and soon COVID traveled from China to more than 100 countries. It became a global pandemic. Now authorities started burning the midnight oil to understand how to tame this. The problem is you can take all those mathematical models into account and try to understand the impact on health system, but what you fail to understand is we do not know in what format the shortage of drugs would manifest. It was difficult to understand that a country like US would ask hydroxychloroquine from India. It was difficult to imagine that something called as remdesivir injection, which cost few $100, it will eventually start costing more than 2 lakh rupees. That too, when everyone knows that this drug is not used for COVID treatment. So it is very difficult to take these uncertainties into account and come up with a response which is working in every situation, in every aspect. Gradually we have seen we needed time for this social distancing message to trickle down and reach to the every people, every citizen. And across the globe, all the health systems, all the governments responded with the lockdowns. It not only got us some time to uh, create awareness, it also got us time to pull in resources. So the PPE kit, mask, we were required to train our healthcare workers. How do they treat this new emerging demand? So all those things require time to prepare, and the lockdown helped us in achieving that particular objective. But then later on, what happened? The other strategies, generally, we look at social distancing norm. Now blame it on WhatsApp University, on poor vaccination drive, or maybe because of the political activities or the religious congregations, but somehow we fail to ensure that other strategies get implemented. And then we know what happened in phase 2. When the second wave hit us, we even used to shudder when our phone used to start ringing, because we were not sure who needs help at what hospital or what exactly they need support with. So situations like these made it mandatory that again we had to look at lockdown, and it again helped us in reorganizing, regrouping, rebalancing the resources, and preventing the fatigue of our health workers and frontline workers. So we believe that the benefit with lockdown are far outweigh than the potential problems it causes. So this is the first opposing motion which we would like to put forth.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Rajveer. That was hot. I need to turn on my AC now. So it is good. Uh, Now we will move to the second round, and for the benefit of everybody, second round is a round in which both the teams will get a chance to substantiate their opening remarks, to put arguments, maybe facts, figures, data elements. So in order to kickstart the round 2, I would request the proposing team to start the second round for supporting your arguments. Over to you, proposing team.
Hi, am I audible clearly? Yeah, cool.
Yes, you are.
I'm new to the office. It's difficult for me to feel settled. I'm new to Toastmasters. It's difficult for me to give my first speech. Yes, it's difficult for people to adapt to change. And lockdown, it's not a mere diet change. It's a change in the entire lifestyle of people. So we all have put in an immense amount of effort. So and also we have struggled like anything to adapt to this so-called new normal, which was an extra overhead to begin with. Now, even after putting in the effort, what's the outcome? Let me provide you with a case by case analysis of what is it. A 5-year-old, they just cannot make friends on a Zoom call. They have to go out for that. A 2021 batch college fresher cannot make the beautiful memories that we all share with our batchmates by just making a Zoom call and requesting people to turn on the cameras. Social touch is a powerful force in human development. It empowers you with a connection, with a feel, with a willingness to come up with sparking ideas and discussions. But all that's gone. It has an impact on the existing relations as well. We all miss going out with our friends, having water cooler talks with our colleagues. Now, we are constantly coming up with innovative ideas to somehow fill in the void. But would we ever be able to, is the question. We all have to agree on how the human brain loves to plan the future. An uncertain future scares us like anything. And guess what's the other name of lockdown? Uncertain times. This has had a serious impact on the mental health of the majority of age groups. Students are worried if they would be having a mass promotion or if they should study. Employees are worried if they can give the down payment of their dream house this year or their managers would postpone their bonuses. Even at the acme of this uncertainty, the employees are burning the midnight oil, constantly switching contexts between home and office. The concept of 9 to 5 job, that demarcation has left us long ago. Do you know how many people in India are daily wage workers? 42%. Yes, 42%. And the above problems seem like first worlds when we start considering the daily wage workers who aren't even able to get the basic amenities for their families in this lockdown, the plight of the immigrants who had to shift to their hometown on a cycle or by walking in the scorching heat of summer. Not to mention the economic turmoil that India witnessed, as explained very well by our team. In all, this is a very grave situation for everyone, and definitely the lockdown has done far more harm than the good it could ever do in all the spheres of human life, psychological, social, or economic. Thank you, and over to you, debate host.
Wow, that was awesome, Toastmaster Janvi. Just loved it. So, my dear friends, now let's call the other team to provide supporting arguments in the form of facts, figures, and other research materials or things like that. So I would like to call opposing team member to test your audio and video, please. Who is coming from?
Am I? Yeah, it's me. Okay, correct?
Yes, we can hear you and we can see you.
Can I be
as well.
spotlighted, please? Can I be spotlighted, please?
You are spotlighted.
I'm not being able to see. I am spotlighted. Okay, for some reason I'm not being able to see myself, but that's fine. Not an issue. So I'm clearly audible and visible, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I will give you some very simple facts and figures. In the end of April of this year, India had crossed 4 lakh daily COVID cases. This was more than 50% higher than the nation with the next highest daily COVID cases. I'll give you another fact and figure. In the first wave, India did not cross 1 lakh of daily COVID cases. I'll give you another fact. Just over the last couple of weeks, India has gone down to 40,000 daily COVID cases. Now, all of these constructs has one thing in common. And what is it? That is the effect, the beneficial effect of lockdown. We had a full-fledged lockdown last year, which ensured our cases did not go out of hand. Our cases went out of hand and our entire health infrastructure got impacted in the second wave. But again, the benefit of the lockdown came back and helped us through this entire crisis. But I'll not just bore you with facts and figures. I'll just remind you of one image that was there, that came in all the news, not just of India, of the world, of burning hearts, of corpses being burned, and it is spread across newspapers everywhere. Now, we humans are impulsive in nature and driven by recency bias. We talk about we not having the social communication. I'll give you one option. COVID was actually not an option thrown at us. It was a crisis, and lockdown was necessary to tackle that crisis. And for that, my question to you is, would you want to go back into that scenario where you have burning graves, where you would have WhatsApp messages of your loved near and dear ones being impacted, not having oxygen, not having beds? Or would you still be okay to pass on a few months working from home? My friends spoke about the economic impact. Firstly, I don't think you can really quantify the value of life with the economic impact. Are you saying that you are okay to have a few GDP points improvement so that you can actually trade that for 50,000 more lives getting impacted? I have no answer for that. Can you really quantify the value of a human life? But nevertheless, I will still try. What I will say is that India was not the only country impacted by GDP. Globally, all countries had a GDP contraction. But in spite of that, globally, 187 countries adopted lockdown as a measure. Countries in a much better health infrastructure than India still took lockdown as a measure. My friends also elaborated on the psychological aspect. You know what? I actually enjoyed the lockdown period because I could actually stay with my near and dear ones in this period of crisis. I could actually connect with my friends who are there in USA, and we could share stories and know about each other's well-being. So I don't think it all depends on how you view whether the glass is half full or half empty. My friends talked about change being always uncomfortable. So do we not take change? The only thing that I can tell you that lockdown is not an ideal solution, but it does more good than harm. Necessity is the mother of all inventions, so they say, and lockdown was a necessity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Pathikrit. That was power packed, and the room is getting hotter. So now that both the teams have provided their opening remarks and supporting arguments, before we move to the question answer session, which I'm sure is going to be much more hotter, we would like to do sort of a poll to sense and see where we stand as of now. So I would be launching the poll. Give me a few seconds, please. I hope the poll is visible to everybody. So go ahead and vote, please. Yeah, we'll wait for 10 seconds more. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So the poll is over. I will have to take a screenshot. Okay, so let's start with the next section now. So this is the round 3, and round 3 is about question and answers. So both the teams will get opportunities to ask 2 questions to the other team, and the other team will get time to answer these questions. So to start with, I would request the opposing team to ask their first question to the proposing team. Over to you to opposing team. Who is going to ask the question from opposing team?
Rajvi,
Toastmaster
do
Kamya.
you want me to go ahead?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, sure. Yeah. No, I mean, Kamya can go ahead. That's perfectly fine.
So, okay, let me ask the question. The
Yeah.
question to the group is, in the phase 2, when we had more than approx 500,000 cases daily, in situation like this, what do you think is the best strategy to contain a crisis like that of COVID? So what are the best possible action items you would do when you are having almost 500,000 cases every day and your health system is not responding to that ably?
I would like to answer.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Raji, for your question. So the answer to this is simple. There are only two solutions to corona, and that is rapid testing and vaccination. And this is not me saying. This is Randeep saying, who is the head of AIMS. This is the health minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, saying. This is what China did to control corona in Wuhan. Let me tell you, when corona was spreading like a wildfire in Wuhan and the world didn't know what was going on, it was rapid testing and vaccination which brought things down. Just by locking someone is never the solution to any problem. So there's my answer.
Okay. Thank you so much, Toastmaster Harsh, for responding to that. Now, the proposing team gets an opportunity to ask the question. Over to you, proposing team.
Yeah, I would like to ask the question.
Go ahead.
So I'm very worried about I'm very apprehensive about the narrow mentality of my colleague, Mr. Pat. Staying at home and he's worried about oxygen of his relatives. My dear friend, it's not the question about your oxygen level. It is about a laborer who doesn't have enough money to put food onto his plate. If his 6-year-old infant son is asking for a piece of bread, and if he doesn't have those 10 rupees even to feed his son, he doesn't worry about dying of COVID. He's worried about dying of hunger, and that is what is affecting people at the minority level. Not you enjoying video games at your home.
Okay.
What was the question? Sorry, I did not get it.
So what is it? So what's the question? Sorry, what's the question? I mean, I'm sure you're over with your rant, but what's your question?
So the question is I'm sorry you could not understand the question, but the question lies in the essence that
there was
due to lockdown you were able to enjoy at home, but due to lockdown there are a lot of people who are not able to work and feed their families. The question is why should they die of hunger when you want to maintain your relatives' oxygen levels?
Okay, the answer for that is very simple. It's not COVID does not differentiate between a lower social class person and an upper social class person. That way it's actually not as narrow-minded as maybe the question that's coming to me right now. It's pretty fair that way, right? And so it's not just me being impacted. Even those workers who are impacted, all of us get impacted. And like I mentioned, lockdown as a concept has been adopted everywhere. The implementation had its flaws in the first one, and it was not done rightly, and there were many people who were impacted because of this, the migrant workers, as you rightly said. But once it was made from a from a center subject to a state subject, we have not had those issues in the second lockdown because it was not abruptly announced. The second point is that all the questions of economy being impacted, I need to mention to you that the nature of doing business has changed. Everything has moved digital. We are having companies and startups like Zomato, like Swiggy, like Pharmacy, and they are actually giving jobs to all these people also who are actually supplying essentials to everyone and giving them the means of livelihood. The other point I'd want to mention is that the government has now allowed that people can use the ration card for getting basic essentials from across the country rather than only from the country of domicile. This was again a mistake from the previous lockdown, but it's a lesson that has been learned in this one. So they can access those basic essentials. So my friend, what I'm trying to say here is that there were mistakes that were made in the first lockdown, but those were mistakes in implementation. Do you actually, so if you are trying to tell me that you're okay, that if those people, it's okay if those people die immediately of COVID rather than dying a slow death, then I don't know what's your concept of life and death. And the second point that I would also want to say is those were mistakes done on the implementation of the first announcement of lockdown.
Okay, I think your time's up. So that was great response from the opposing team. Now, again, the opposing team gets opportunity to ask the question number 2. I would request opposing team to go ahead with the question, please.
Am I audible?
Yes,
so
you are
my
audible.
question is okay. Yeah, okay. My question is simple. I am an engineering student. I know many of my medical students who are sitting in their home. They're studying medical. They're studying engineering.
Sorry, we are.
I think opposing team would ask the question, I guess. Sorry to interrupt.
The opposing team will ask the question. So either Pathikrit or Kamya, who wants to go for it?
I can go.
I can go for it.
Go for it.
Who's going?
I have a question in mind. Do you want me to give? I can.
Okay, you can
also ask.
go
It's fine.
Okay. So my question is because
sure, thanks.
Lockdown have definitely affected us in a negative way. There's no doubt. But we have to live and we have to look in the positive side. So I just want to ask one question is that you are staying at home and there's a lockdown. So what happiness you have found staying at home? My question is this.
Okay, so could you repeat your question?
Okay, now lockdown have definitely have negative impacts, but we need to stay positive because all the main people who are leading in front and who are fighting, like doctors and everyone, COVID fighters, they are fighting and they are trying to be positive. So we have to support them. And how are we supporting? By following the rules, the guidelines. So my question is, how are we helping them? How are we helping them? And what is your answer to this?
I would like to answer, like, if no one answers.
Go for it.
So first of all, I'll answer your question in 2 parts. The first part being that you said that we should think in a positive way. So are you willing to think in a positive way, or are you forced to think in a positive way is a very important question that you should ask yourself. And the second question is how we are contributing. So according to you, if the lockdown is the solution, then why are we having the second wave and the third wave? There should not be second wave and third wave if we are having a very positive effect via lockdown. So that would be one argument. And the second argument, how are we contributing? We as a citizen should be frontline while taking care of ourselves and also the people who are in need. So we shouldn't only think about us ourselves as privileged people staying at home and working via internet. As one of my friends said, that Farm Easy is providing employment. But when you consider India as a large, it is not restricted to Mumbai, Maharashtra, Bengal, Kolkata, or whatever it is. It is 1.3 billion people at stake, and you can't take decisions based on your comfort. That should be determining how other 1.2 billion people or odd stay and live their lives.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Sameep, to respond to that. And now let's move to the last and the final question, which will be asked by the proposing team. So who is going to ask the question from proposing team? I can see Toastmaster Harsh. Toastmaster Harsh, go ahead, unmute yourself and go ahead.
I'm so sorry for jumping you before actually my bell rang, so I couldn't hear what was there. I thought it was my opportunity. My apologies for that. So my question is simple. I'm an engineering student. I know my friends who are a medical student and they are studying online. We are learning how to operate machines without touching a machine. We are learning how to operate surgery blade without touching a blade. Now, what is going to happen to the next generation when people like them become doctors and engineers? Would you really love to give a surgery blade in the hands of a person who has never used it? And let me tell you, not all medical colleges and engineering colleges have opened. That's my question.
Can I respond to that?
Harsh, Rajvi, can I just, okay, go ahead. But I want to add one point if that's okay with you.
Maybe you can respond, then no issues at all.
Okay, sure, thanks. So Harsh, the point of the matter here is that lockdown is not a permanent solution. It's a temporary solution that allows the healthcare infrastructure to not go out of control. As one of my persons already said that, are you okay for the 1.2 billion lives to be impacted? The point of the matter is your education, you can still get that education and it will not have a long-term impact. But if you don't do lockdown, there will be lives that are lost right now. Yours is a hypothetical question that is forward-looking. So we need to stay in the present. So that's my simple answer to your question. And the second point I just want to add is that one of the answers mentioned is that the second wave happened showed what the failure of lockdown. I would rather say that that just proves the success of lockdown, because the only reason that the second wave happened was because all lockdown norms were actually compromised at that time. And vaccination also is an ideal scenario. We don't have a complete vaccination now. Lockdown is required only because we don't have that optimum level of vaccination. Once that's reached, obviously we can do away with the lockdown.
Okay, so thank you so much, Toastmaster Pathikrit from the opposing team for the response. And with that, we are done with the 2 questions from each team. And I'm sure it's getting very, very hot now. I'm already sweating here, listening to the questions and the arguments put forward from both the teams. In the interest of time, we will move to the round 4 now, which is concluding round in which both the team members will get an opportunity to summarize and do a closure of why they think they are proposing the motion or opposing the motion. So let's move to round number 4 now. I would request opposing team first to raise the hand who is going to summarize from opposing team. All right, so over to you, Toastmaster Kamya. I hope you can see the timer card as well. Over to you.
I just okay. Okay, I can see the timer cards. Can I start? Okay, great. I'll conclude by whatever I have viewed. Let's exclude the cribbing, abusing, complaining, and judging. Let's exclude all this and include happiness, smiles, hugs, and kiss. Stay at home and stay safe. Get vaccinated and recover. Let's come together and fight the COVID days. The only thing is to stay positive, because negativity is the new positivity. Now, we all heard that benefits of lockdowns. What are the benefits of lockdowns? And this decision is not just taken by any random person. This decision is taken by all the professionals, all the doctors, scientists, and all the front leaders. And it is our responsibility to follow it, and it is our responsibility to control it. Now, many people are there who crib all the time. Like till yesterday, they were like, oh God, my boss, he's not giving me a leave. I want to stay home. I want a holiday. I want a break. And once now you are getting a break, you are sitting at home and still you're cribbing. You are saying, I want to go home. I am not a claustrophobic. but I may turn into one if I spend one more second. But it is not about caring the different environments. It is not about going out. It is to stay home and create your creativity. Because if you get bored, this is no time to get bored. This is time to take the charge and lead a life. You can obviously focus on your education sitting at home. Right now, also, we are sitting at home and learning. We are able to attend meetings. The learning is never stopped, or it will never be. The main thing is lockdown is there, and we need to follow lockdown, and nothing will stop. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Kamya from the opposing team. Points well put. Now, this is the last and final opportunity for the proposing team to summarize the debate and put forward your stand and with a call for action. So, can please raise your hand from the proposing team who wants to go for it? That is Toastmaster Harsh, is it? All right. So Toastmaster Harsh, I hope you can see the timer card. Unmute yourself.
1 second. Oh, yeah, I can see the timer cards.
Over to you, Toastmaster Harsh.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Abhinav, opposite team, and my proposing team members. So, people say lockdown is essential because it's going to save you from corona. You might say it does long-term effects to your lungs and everything. But do you know what is the most important organ of a body? And let me tell you, it's not your brain, it's not your heart, it's not your lung, it's not your lung, it's your mind. I have seen people survive 16 years with third stage cancer just because they had the will to live. They had people to interact with. And do you know, I have read a newspaper article the other day in United States. When Trump first announced the lockdown, within 1 week, the suicide helpline calls raised by nearly 500%. Just imagine the most vital organ of their body, the mind had given up. So you might think of that your lungs and everything might be safe, but your mind, if mind gives up, nothing is left. And in Mahabharata, I remember Shakuni used to win every Ludo chance because his dice was loaded. And no matter how I throw this topic around, I only see the negative. We might talk about how vaccines are there, how in lockdown we are getting time to spend with our families, how learning is happening online. Migrant workers, they're dying of hunger, they're dying of poverty. They haven't seen their family for years. They're dependent on government. What is government doing? Playing politics. We might think, hey, I am happy. So what happens? This reminds me of a quote during World War II. Winston Churchill, when he was asked by British officers, sir, why are you bringing in so much food and money from India? Our people are dying of famine. He peevishly wrote, why hasn't Gandhi died yet? This is the thing when we just think about ourselves and we are happy and others are not. This is not the way our world works. And like one of my members also mentioned, man is a social animal. You remove that social, he's just an animal. So you might have these stats and figures and everything. My only concern is what is a human without his mind? With mind, we have achieved so much wonders. We are having Zoom and everything. And on a lighter note, members who have been at Toastmasters in offline meetings as well will agree with me. Offline meetings were the best. The energy we used to get while we were standing in front of a crowd with 30, 40 guys, right? The scare which used to get, that was on a different level altogether. Sitting here, you bring in 500 people also, I'll say without any losing my confidence normally. So yeah, that's it from my end, and over to our awesome debate host, Toastmaster Abhinav.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Harsh, for concluding and summarizing your stand. And with that, the round 4 is also over. And I'm sure, just like me, all of us were moving from one side to the other, listening to the arguments and substantiating data and facts. And I'm sure everybody enjoyed it as well.